So here's what we're going to be working on today. This is your first animation actually using an armature and working with the graph editor. Now, believe it or not, that's what these all these shapes are. They're actually part of the same armature. I've just given them special shape to make it a little bit more fun to animate rather than just animating a silly looking plain old bone. So it might sound very complicated as to what you have to do in this exercise, but trust me, it is very, very easy. We're going to start on the left here. They're all starting at the same time and they're going all the way over to the right and they're getting there at the same time, and then they're jumping back here at the same time. Now there's only one difference, and that is this guy here. We've got a little bit of craziness going on. So these are the actual interpolation modes that we're going to be practicing with each one of these controls. So a top guy here is going to be in constant. That's why he's going to snap from the left to the right and back again. The linear guy is going to go in a linear fashion, which means that every frame he's going to move the same amount. Our Bezier is going to start slow, speed up, and then slow down when it gets to the end. And this guy, you can do whatever you want with this one. I want you to have some fun and experiment with some of the interpolation types that we haven't gone over in the previous lessons. Okay, let's get started. So when you open up the file, it should look something like this. Basically, we have one armature object with all these bones in it. We have 4 bones, and I've just given them a custom shape, which is why they're colored here and they've got these shapes here. And these text scribbles, I'm sorry for my poor handwriting, but that is just a grease pencil object. So let me give you a quick tour of our file, just so you can understand everything that's going on before we actually start animating. So over here in our outliner, we have 3 main collections. We have our rig, which is the thing that we're going to be animating. It's a practice rig here. This is our armature. And then we have the grease pencil collection, and I've just called our grease pencil object hide me. That's just a helpful reminder so you know what to do with each one of these bones. So this one we're going to switch to constant, this one's going to be linear, this one's going to be Bezier, and this one you can do whatever you want with this one, go crazy. And finally, our util collection here is hidden by default. I'm going to make sure that we hide it. It's just got our camera in it as well as these shapes. So I'll just hide our rig now, and you can see that these are the shapes that I use for the bones. They're in the same location here. So we just turn them on, turn them off. We actually don't need to see them. So I'm just going to hide that whole thing. And this is our camera here. It's also hidden in this util thing here, because you don't need to, I've already set it up for you. You don't need to bother with that one. Now, if you want to jump to the camera, you can push the numpad 0. And remember, if you don't actually have a numpad, you can just go active camera in our view menu here. So there we go. Now let's get everything back to the state where we can animate. So I'm going to hide our util. Now, why did our armature go gray? And that is because it only shows you the colors when we're in pose mode. So if this is showing gray, it means that we're not in pose mode, we're actually in object mode. We know we're in object because it says up here. So let me turn off our grease pencil, select our armature, and we're actually ready to start animating. So I'm going to switch into pose mode and you'll see our colors come back. All right, so let's start animating. All right, so the way I'm going to start is I'm going to work my way down from the top. So I'm going to start with this little square guy up the top and then go down. But let's open up a graph editor. So I'm going to split my window, just right clicking there, horizontal split. And then we already know the shortcut for the graph editor. It is Shift F6, so I'm going to change that there. So now we've got a graph editor open. If you didn't want to do that, you can just open up our menu on the corner of the window. So starting at the top, I'm going to select this guy. I know we've got Control 1 selected because this is Control 1, Control 2, Control 3, Control 4. It's a pretty handy way of naming them. Good on you, Wayne. I did a good job there. So we're going to select Control 1, and we're going to make this go from our left of the screen to the right of the screen and then back again. So we are going to turn on my auto keying. I'm going to choose the one at the bottom here, whole character, selected bones only. That's the one that I like to start with. And because I want it to use the auto keying, I'll make sure I turn on this guy here. And then also let's enable auto keying. So there we go. So now it should actually keyframe when we move this guy. Now you notice all our controls here, well, most of our controls have all of our channels locked except for the X location, and that's to make it really easy for you guys. But this guy down here has everything open, so yeah, you can have some fun with that guy. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to position it on frame 1 over here on the left. So I've got this guy selected. I'm going to hit G for grab, and I'm going to drag him to the left, and you'll notice that I can't go up and down because I've locked these channels over here. So that's something nice and handy. Now if I hold down Control as I'm doing that, it's going to snap to the grid, and I know my snapping is because it's on the increment here, which is kind of handy, and that gave me a value of -6. So that's good. That's where I want my that's where I want this square guy to start. Then I'm going to go to a different frame number. Let's go to frame 31. So we're going to work on 30 frames later, and then I'm going to position it over here on the right. So I'm going to hit G, I'm going to hold down Control, that's going to snap it. If you watch the channel boxes, you'll see it go all the way up. If I don't hold Control, then it's just going to go freehand. So let's just hold Control to snap it. It's already keyed that because of our auto keying. We already had a key on that channel, so it's added it for us. Now I want to go to 30 frames later and key it back at the start. So there's many ways we can do that. Let's just practice a few ways. So I'm going to hold down Control and then make sure it's on -6, and that should loop nicely. Now I'm going to end my animation, and I want to end it 1 frame before the start of our loop. That way when it cycles, it's going to be a seamless gap. So if I actually ended it here, it's going to play that last frame and the first frame twice, and so it's going to pause. So I'm going to end it on frame 60. Control End is going to set that end frame there. Now let's play our animation with the spacebar, or Shift spacebar in my case. Now, there's one thing that is wrong with the interpolation type. We actually want this one to be constant, but it is Bezier. And these handles, as you've already learnt, they are automatically clamped. That's the default setting. So we can actually change this. I'm going to select this one key, and then going to make sure that I link select everything. So I'm just going to hit L. That's selected everything there for me. And then I'm going to change my interpolation type. Now the way I said that is to kind of remind you that an interpolation type uses the T menu. So T for interpolation type. All right, so I'm going to change it to constant. There we go. Now we've got these square looking keyframes here. So let's play this animation. It should snap. Yes, that's exactly what we want. So now we've got some constant interpolation, just snapping from one end to the other and looping seamlessly. That is our first bone done. Let's work to our next control. I'm going to select this guy. Now you notice we've got nothing in our graph editor here. I'm going to go back to frame 1, and I'm going to position it over here on the left side of our screen. I'm just going to type in here -6 because I actually know that that's a nice tidy number for that position over here. Then we're going to go to frame 31, and I'm going to do the same thing. Actually, I'm going to show you a little bit of a shortcut. If I want this to flip, so at the moment it says -6, if I want it to flip, I can just hover over and then push the negative key, and it's going to change that value to 6. And obviously because I already have my auto keying on, it's going to key it at the same time. So that is pretty handy. All right, so that is getting from one side to the other. Now I want to key it back at the start, and we are on frame 61 at the moment. Now there's a couple ways that we can do this. I could duplicate this key, drag it over here, but I'm going to do the same thing in our graph editor here. So I'm going to grab this key, which as you can see is on the X location. Also, if these channels are pretty hard to read, like it is at the moment, you can actually turn off the colors in the view menu. So go view and then go up to show color groups, and that's going to show you the default settings there, which I find this is a lot easier to read. Otherwise it's going to use the colors of your bones here, and I think that's a little bit confusing. All right, so this is my X location channel. That's what the red noodle represents. And I'm going to grab this guy, I'm going to move it over here. So I've got it selected, I'm going to hit Shift D and then drag it. Now as you've learned, we can constrain it on our horizontal axis in our graph editor here by hitting the X key whilst we have the grab operation active. So then it's not going to go up or down, but it's just going to go left and right. So I'm going to position it there, bang. So now let's play our animation. Shift spacebar, or spacebar for you. You can see that yes, it's moving across here and going backwards. That's good, but you'll notice that it is not the correct interpolation type. So we are going to fix that. I'm going to just select one key here. Actually, no, I'm going to do it a different way. Because I only have one channel showing in my graph editor, I'm going to hit the A key. Whoops, I need to push it again because it's going to toggle. that's going to select everything. And now I want to change the interpolation type. And I'm going to hit T, and I'm going to change this one to be linear. So now you see I've got no handles. Now there's actually another way that we can do this, right? Let me just undo that, Control Z. We can actually change this, the vector handles, to be a vector type. So let's go V for vector and choose the vector handles, and you'll see that is exactly the same shape. So either way of doing that is perfectly fine. I often don't worry about changing the whole the type. I just use the vector if I want a section to be straight, and say if I wanted this one not to be straight, then we can just change that one to be, actually automatic won't work. Let's just go aligned, and now, yeah, so you can see we've got the straight on this side, the linear on this side, and then we've got the advantage of the aligned handle on this side. Let me just undo that. Actually, let me just change it back to being vector. And now, I did go on a little bit of a tangent, but you can see our triangle here is ping-ponging left and right. Exactly what we want, because this is linear interpolation. All right, we're on a roll. Let's keep going. Let's keep the good things moving. So this one, actually I've forgotten what we want to do to this one, so I'm just going to turn on my grease pencil. That's right, I want it to be Bezier. This is going to be the easiest one yet. So on frame 1, I know I'm on frame 1, I'm going to grab it, and let's just position it over here. I'm holding down Control to snap it. It's on frame 1. Then over here, I'm going to, let's type in here, +6. So there we go. And then over here on frame 61, let's do it a different way. I'm going to grab this key. So I just selected that one key, Shift D, duplicate, drag it over there. And let's have a look at this. All right, and this is already in Bezier interpolation mode. So this one, I'm done. Good work. That was the easiest one yet. Now we're going to have some fun. We're going to play around with some of the other interpolation modes. Yay! All right, so back to frame 1. I'm going to select this guy. Let's move him back here, hold down the Control, and you'll see we've got a lot more keyframes here, and that is because all of these channels are unlocked, and our keying set is going to keyframe every channel that is available. So what do I actually want to animate for this? So let me actually show all our curves here. So we've got our locations, our rotations, and our scales. I'm going to, actually, let's just hide all of these ones there. I'm just dragging down there and just showing the X location there. I'm going to do, let's do the same thing, all right, just to start with. So I'm going to move this guy over here. Let's just flip it. So let's go like that. And I'm going to hit I just to key everything. Now, even when they're hidden, it's going to key. So if I turn them back on, you'll see we've actually got keyframes on these channels. Let's just hide them again. And let's just do the same thing we did before. Shift D and just copy it over to frame 61. So now at the moment it's going to do exactly the same thing as our blue guy here, except now we're going to play with it. So I'm going to select everything with the L key, and now that I have all of them selected, I'm going to bring up my interpolation type menu. I'm going to say that every time until it's memorized in your brain. Let's have some fun with some of these ones here. So actually let's look at the, let's go circular, and you'll see, oh, okay, what's going on here? You'll notice that it's going to start slow and get really fast, and then it's going to do the opposite thing here. But you'll notice with these ones that we don't actually have any handles to control this one. So actually, let's change this around. So interpolation type, exponential. Actually, let's select all of them and do that. You'll notice, oh, it's even more sharp, so it's going to have a more pronounced effect. So it's going to start really slow and then go start really slow and then speed up. But again, we don't have any handles. I don't like that. Let's go, let's play some of these ones. Let's go bounce and see what happens. Oh, you see we've got some crazy action going on here. Let's play this. Boing, 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 boing. This is fun. All right, so that's really fun effect. Now, I encourage you to go and have some even more fun with this. We can add extra keyframes in here. I just hit the Control thing there. Let's change these ones to be, whoops, interpolation type. Let's make that elastic. See what happens. Boing, boing, some crazy stuff's going on. So all of this extra animation on our curves here, we got that for free. So that was great. Now, let's add a curve modifier. We have a little bit of fun. Let's go noise. I'm going to add some noise, and you'll see it's added a little bit of crinkles to all of these lines here. So I'm going to, this is my strength. If you can't read it, just drag it out. You see this is my strength. So I'm going to do that. And now let's watch what happens. Ah, some craziness going on. All the while, it's still doing, it's still going from the left to the right. So that is what we want you to do. Now, I haven't actually played around with any other channels, but you can feel free to do that. Actually, the rotations won't do much. See, oh, actually, no, there we go. We can actually spin this one around if we want. You can scale it up on the axes, although when you do scale, it's probably best to scale it all on the 3 axes at once so that it doesn't go weird, but go crazy, have some fun with it. Okay, I'm going to render it out as well, just to my render folder there. Let's give it a name. I'm going to call this crazy animation.mp4, and now this doesn't match our file settings here, so let's change that. MP4 and our encoding, rather than set everything, we are going to just choose our preset H264 in MP4. And now when we render this out, so it doesn't matter if we actually render the animation for real or do the viewport render, but because I'm not worried about how it looks in the final render, I'm just going to viewport render it here. Viewport render animation, and you'll find that's a lot faster than the actual normal real render. Okay, let's bring this up with Control F11, and it just popped up on my other screen here. So there we go. We have our different interpolation types.